Hello, my name is Laura Yowie. I'm the president of the Pennsylvania Jumpstart Coalition. We are a passionate group of financial education stakeholders dedicated to supporting financial education for young people across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I, along with my board of directors, have compiled this speaker series to offer resources by some of our partners to educators and other interested stakeholders across the Commonwealth. Thank you for being here, and please enjoy. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Pennsylvania Jumpstart Coalition's speaker series. It is March 2026, and we are so thrilled to invite PA Banking and Securities to join us for this month's call. I would like to introduce Emma Bomberger from PA Department of Banking and Securities. She works in the Financial Education, Protection, and Outreach Office. She focuses on financial literacy outreach to teens and young adults through the Save and Invest PA program. Emma, I'm so thrilled to have you on. I'm going to stop my sharing so you can bring up your screen. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Laura. Give me one moment to pull up. Hi, everybody. My name's Emma from the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. And today I just wanted to go over our Save and Invest PA program. We recently made some updates because of the new standards. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat and we can go over them at the end. So our department, the Department of Banking and Securities, licenses and regulates all of the state chartered financial institutions in PA. So we regulate about 150 banks and credit unions, license check cashers, mortgage lenders, car dealers, and other non-bank lenders. And I have about 200,000 investment professionals who are registered. My office is the Financial Education, Protection, and Outreach Office, and we just work to ensure that consumers are well informed about the industry and promote wise and safe investing. So a little bit about the program. The Save and Invest PA, it's been around for many years, and it has been a two-part program going over the basics of investing, working with professionals, avoiding financial fraud. And with the new Pennsylvania academic standards for personal finance, we began revamping it to kind of align with the new standards and just align with what's being taught in the classroom. So looking at the new program, we split it into a three-part program, and these are three individual presentations. And I just want to emphasize that they are standalone. They don't have to be done together or in order. You can just have one based on your needs. And everything is non-commercial since we are a government agency. So the first presentation is on saving and investing. This is introductory, going over the differences between saving and investing, and then going over basic investments. And then the second one is starting to invest. And this is more when you're looking to open an account or work with a professional. And then finally, fraud awareness. So these are all designed to touch on the topics outlined in the new standards, and it's a great way to just reinforce what's already being taught in the classroom or introduce different topics as you're going over them and just have your students hear from a new face. So specifically going over what's involved in each of the presentations, the first one goes over saving and investing, kind of the difference between saving and investing, talking about short-term goals, long-term goals, and just looking at the different types of income a student may have and expenses, and just encouraging them to track all of their expenses and make a spending plan to help them reach either long-term or short-term goals, and making sure that expenses are, not more than the income that they have. Then it also goes over some savings vehicles and just looking at interest rates and things like that, and then the different types of investments, so stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. And the second presentation, this is when they're looking to really start investing and opening an account. We really emphasize the power of compound interest and how at a young age you can really grow your retirement if you start young. We go over type of investment accounts. So we do wealth building and retirement accounts, and then some investment strategies that they can consider based on their goals and how much risk they're willing to take. Then looking at working with financial professionals, so what to look for, what questions to ask, and considering your goals and what you specifically want from the professional, if you're looking to be more of a passive or active investor. And then we close by providing resources to research and verify either investments or professionals, and just make sure you're working with legitimate opportunities and individuals. Finally, the third presentation is fraud awareness, and this goes over all different types of scams and red flags to look out for, and just common things that are targeting young investors. So we'll look at finfluencers and encourage students to consider, what are you looking at on social media and is it actually credible? And then going over crypto, the basics of it and the dangers of investing in crypto. Then we'll talk about the importance of protecting your financial information because of, identity theft, and then looking at tools to research and verify potential scams. So that's kind of an overview of all three of the presentations. And I just wanted to give a few examples of the slides and how they align with some specific standards. So this is from the first presentation, and this is looking at savings vehicles. And as you can see, it goes over all of the different vehicles there. And then we'll discuss why some have a higher interest rate, like minimum balances and different criteria for each account. And then here's another slide. This is also in the first presentation, just going over stocks, what they are, and what influences their price. And then in the presentation, we also have bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs, and we discuss the differences between all of them. In the second presentation then, describe factors to consider when selecting sources of investment advice. We talk about different financial professionals, things to consider before you start working with a professional, and thinking about what services you specifically want, and as well as considering whether they have a fiduciary duty. And in the following slides, we'll discuss financial advisors, robo-advisors, and everything along those lines. And then here's another standard: compare retirement-specific investment options. So here would be the employer-sponsored accounts, like the 401k, and then we compare it to IRAs, Roth, and we do have a slide on some options if you're self-employed. And then for the last presentation, the last two, these are for the fraud awareness. Analyze trends in financial fraud and strategies to avoid becoming a victim. We kind of go over how scammers steal personal information and just encourage students to be on the lookout for phishing emails and be aware of how they're sharing personal information, especially online, and kind of giving examples of how scammers utilize your information online to create scams. And then related to investments, we go over some investment common red flags to look out for fraud, and ways that scammers can really get you to have a sense of urgency and need to act quickly. So that is an overview of our three presentations. And now I'm just going to show some of the resources that we have and give you the opportunity to schedule a presentation. We do have some publications and other resources on our website. If you go to pa.gov/DOBS, under the publications and reports tab, there's lots of publications and other resources. And these are all non-commercial publications. And if you do have a presentation, I can bring these and other publications that students can take for afterwards to look into more information. And these are all available to order. We can send them to you via mail, or you can view them or download them as a PDF online. So this first publication, Your New Job, that's a great presentation or publication for students who recently got a job and have their first paycheck. And it goes over the different forms you have to fill out at your new job. And it outlines some different retirement accounts and really emphasizes the importance of taking advantage of matching contributions and how over time, your retirement account can really grow, especially when you start really young. And then it touches on income, expenses, and creating a spending plan. Then investment fraud, this one goes over a lot of the red flags and some common investment scams that are, really prevalent. So affinity scams or Ponzi schemes, things like that. And then provides resources for you to research and identify legitimate investment opportunities. And then the last publication, this one's good for anyone who's looking to work with a professional. It goes over questions to ask and encourages you to really consider what you're looking for, and then provides ways to check financial professionals' credentials and verify that all of their information is accurate. So if you are interested in scheduling a presentation, you can email me and I can present to multiple class periods. It's not just one class and then done. And I'll provide publications. Or if you're interested in only the publications, you can go on the website, look at them, figure out which ones you want, and you can make a list and send it to informed.pa.gov and provide the mailing address, and then they can send those publications to you. So here's my contact information. And does anybody have any questions?
Emma, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciated how you did the alignments for the schools already on alignment to the new standards. That was fantastic. Great options as schools are looking at putting their courses together to meet the new standards coming up. So I'm just filling in some space in case anyone does have questions. Feel free to raise your hand or jump into the chat. I see Hillary has her hand raised.
I'll warm people up. Come on, folks. No, I love this. I think it's fantastic. I know you guys have been doing these for a long time, and I love the updates and taking them into consideration with the standards. I know you mentioned you know, the materials that you have on other topics. Just curious to what extent you think you might be like developing additional, maybe not necessarily saving or investing related presentations as well, or if you think you have the bandwidth or capacity, maybe just sort of things like on more like banking or, I'm sure you talk about things like um, digital payments and what have you in your fraud area, but we have a lot of teachers I know that are really interested in, um, and some of them aren't even fully aware of like the fact that your money in Venmo isn't necessarily another, isn't isn't as secure as it is in a regulated, insured depository institution. So just curious if you have thoughts on sort of upcoming plans, expansion, what have you.
If you're talking specifically about presentations, unless Katrina, I don't know if you have one that you know of.
So, I'm Katrina. I work with Emma. We actually have quite a few other presentations these are the ones that we've taken and we've designed specifically for students. We do have a banking basics presentation that we can bring. It's called Banking in the 21st Century. We have some other fraud prevention presentations. We also have, we actually have quite a few, and I am completely drawing a blank, but we definitely have other resources available. If you go to our website that Emma mentioned, pa.gov/DOBS, we have a list of some of the other presentations that we offer. And if teachers are specifically looking for something sort of more narrow and more specific, we absolutely can take a look at what we have and then see if it's appropriate to bring something new. So we can certainly do that.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that resource. And I think also, I think there's as more and more educators are coming into this process in order to meet the standards, and the influx of new students or new teachers, I think having those expertise on call and available is always valuable for our schools. Karen is in the chat asking if the slides and materials are accessible to all students.
So the resource materials are all on our website. If we have a teacher if we have a school that we go to, we can certainly provide the slides to those students. We don't typically just blanketly send out the slides because, those have some bullets, but there's so much more that goes behind that specific presentation. So we haven't really tossed around that concept because, we want to be able to bring the resources to the schools.
So primarily you're encouraging schools to go to the site.
Mm-hmm. And reach out to us for Save an Ambassador or whatever other, presentations that we have.
Fantastic. And I don't know, I think, I don't know, Karen, if that is what you intended from your question. I also know sometimes accessibility comes up as a question around presentations. I don't know, Katrina and Emma, if you have anything to speak to related to different learning differences, and how that might show up in the way your presentations are.
I know that we are working towards making sure that our slides are accessible. I know that there's further work to be done, but we are also, always revamping and redoing. So it's a process.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm just waiting to see if there's any additional questions or comments before we wrap up this afternoon. Hillary.
Faster for me to go on video and raise my hand than find the thing. Sorry. I'm just curious from the ones that you like from recent, I mean, you guys have been doing these for a long time. Curious if you'd be able to share with those who are on the line. Like, what do you think are some of the, like, what are kids interested in right now? Like, what are the kinds of like questions that you're getting? Which of these topics or within these presentations are you getting, sort of the most engagement maybe with students? Just, kind of curious what you guys are seeing, or if there's anything in particular like misconceptions that you're finding that you need to, sort of recalibrate folks on.
So I'm always surprised when I hear students, particularly from organizations like FBLA, where they tell me that they've already been investing for a few years. So they often will come with questions specific to their investment accounts, which is actually so incredibly rewarding to hear. We also get a lot of questions about investment fraud, where students have maybe become victim to a Ponzi scheme thinking they were getting involved in a book selling program. So those are kind of the questions that we get. We also get a lot of questions about crypto and artificial intelligence, which we have just started really putting together some presentations on artificial intelligence. And I know Emma is kind of working those things into her presentations. And then we get some questions about cryptocurrency, but it's such an unregulated situation that we haven't yet dipped our toes into it, other than to say, buyer beware. But that is on our agenda because it's something that we absolutely have to be prepared for.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Janet.
Hi, I'm Janet Gettig. I work at the Wedley Area School District, and I'm just looking at that pa.gov DOBS website on my phone, and I'm not really finding the three areas that you mentioned, the sessions like your new job, and then fraud. Can you direct me on where to find that?
Absolutely.
Great question. Thank you, Janet.
So if you go into the publications and reports, I believe is the way it's labeled.
Unless I'm not seeing it on my phone, that could be it.
Okay. Let me see if I can kind of help with that.
Would it be possible to screen share the navigation?
Sure.
Either Emma or
Well,
Katrina?
it's going to be different because of it being a phone compared to our website.
Okay.
But Emma, do you want me to share?
I think it is different on like the desktop, but on the phone, if you're just on the home page, if you scroll past the part that says news, and then there's like a DOBS shortcuts,
Okay, I see that. Mm-hmm.
and then publications and reports, there's like an arrow.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
You'll find that we have quite a few fantastic publications, like specifically for stocks. And those can be really helpful for teachers as they're starting to provide, this education. They're written by the authors of Kiplinger, but they were written for us and the Investor Protection Trust, so they're completely non-commercial. So those are great resources for teachers to access. And then, as Emma said, we can actually ship you the printed materials if that's what you want for your student.
Thank you.
Great questions.
Emma, thank you for being good on the phone, on being able to find it on the phone.
Fantastic. I have not seen any additional questions come in. So I just want to wrap up by saying a big thank you again to Emma, Katrina, and PA Banking and Securities, both for joining us today at Jumpstart, but also for offering such incredibly valuable, up-to-date resources for educators across the Commonwealth. Really excited to hear how it goes with the new work. And again, if anyone would like to reach out to me directly, feel free to send me an email. We hope that we see you at a future call. And of course, those of you that are in partner organizations and have the opportunity to attend our annual meeting in April, please make sure you register and plan to join us in Harrisburg next month. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you for joining us.